Hey everybody, in this upcoming video, Brie and I are going to sit down and have an open conversation about what it's really like owning an airplane and what some of the cons are for us. If you have any experience, I encourage you to leave comments below about what your cons are and what you wish you would have known prior to buying an airplane as well, with the hopes of helping somebody that may be thinking about doing it themselves. As always, we encourage you to like and subscribe to help support the channel. Hey guys, it's Grayson and Bree with Yankee Bravo Aviation. We just wanted to do a check-in. We do promise that one day very soon we are going to be back in the airplane. It's been a long annual. It's been challenging. Um, Definitely made us question some things as far as is owning an airplane really worth it? And it got Bree and I to thinking that maybe it would be a good time to do a video on, is owning an airplane really worth the headache? And the honest answer is it probably isn't for everybody. Um, there's certain things about it that really just aren't going to fit the individual's mission of owning. There's a lot of factors that I wish I would have known and slash listened to prior to buying an airplane. So while the plane's still down in annual, we're kind of going through this challenging time of owning a plane, and it comes down to missing it more than anything. We're paying all this money out every month. Our fixed costs haven't changed, and we're not really enjoying the benefits of it. And it's been 3 months since we've done a trip.
When you said that to me, I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah, it's been 3 months. Planes only been in annual for 2 months, but we knew it was going in. I had some concerns prior to going into annual, so I wasn't flying a whole lot right before. So our last trip was June 22nd, and it is September 20th right now, so just shy of 3 months. But I have been told the plane will be back at the end of the month. We're going to go ahead and postpone it until October 1st. That way, we're not due annual until October 31st of 2023. Just trying to get the most out of this big expense that we're putting in. So, what we've done is we've made a list of items that really need to be considered before buying an airplane. Keep in mind, this is our personal list. This isn't everybody's list, but I do feel like I feel like it's a good topic. I feel like it's one of those things that doesn't get talked about quite enough, especially for somebody or a couple looking to buy an airplane. So these are our top 4 items, and I'm gonna let Bree start with number 1 because it's the one it's the one I hear about all day long. So why?
My favorite question. But yeah, I mean, when we spoke about purchasing a plane and what the cost would look like on a monthly basis, we had an expectation of our set amounts. We know what the hangar is, we know what our monthly payment is for the plane, we know what avgas is, and even though it changes, we still know what it is, and we know what insurance is. So, we created a budget based off of that, and then we added 50% just as a little leeway. And, we went into it thinking that it was really reasonable, 50% over our, budget. And then we found out that, you know, parts need to be replaced or things aren't 100%, and do a little work here, a little work there. And when you talk about the job, it's really not a big deal. Like, it's such a small thing. And then we take it to the mechanic and we see the amount of it, and we're kind of just sitting there looking at the numbers like, oh man, like, we made a budget of 50% over and we're exceeding that.
And a lot of that was probably my fault for not doing a good job of explaining to you on, you know, what it could cost. Parts are expensive; they're hard to come by right now. Um, and getting back to the avgas portion of it, when we bought our plane in August of 2021, avgas was 462 a gallon. Actually, I pulled a receipt from exactly a year ago today, and it was 462 a gallon. Um, Today it's at 760 at our local airport. It had gone up to over 8, and now it's below 760. Um, that's a $3 a gallon difference. And you know, if you were flying out of state and you went to a high dollar airport where avgas is extremely expensive, that one tank isn't going to make or break you. But when you're doing 200 hours a year, averaging 11 gallons an hour, that's a $6,600 increase every year. Break that down monthly, it's a little bit over $500 a month. Break that down weekly, it's about a buck 25 a week. So it is not small. That's not a small change. That is a dramatic change in the cost of owning an airplane just in 1 year. And frankly, I just don't see it ever getting back to where it was. There's a lot of laws and regulations right now that they're trying to push through to ban avgas. The ultra low lead fuel is going to be more expensive. From what I understand, there's probably some benefits to it as far as engine longevity. So it's one of those things we're kind of in the wild, wild west where we just don't know how it's going to play out. Um, Parts, they've gotten very hard to get into. I have a remote oil reservoir part ready for the airplane to be installed, but I can't install it on the plane because you can't get oil filters right now. So I'm going to put this part in the plane, and then I may be grounded because I can't find an oil filter. So it's just been a chaotic year. COVID's been challenging on it. Insurance has gone up. Hangar rates have gone up. My mechanic hours, cost per hour has gone up. Shipping costs have gone up, and it's just and then it just doesn't stop. And it's one of those things where Brie and I were very fortunate that we bought the airplane before we made any major purchases as a married couple. Um, so we made the decision to step back our lifestyle dramatically in order to continue to live this dream. Um, I don't think everybody's going to have that ability. We've just been very blessed and made the conscious decision that, we're going to experience life to the fullest. And we're not going to look back when we're 65 and say we wish we would have. We're going to say we're glad we did. And in order to do that right now, we had to make cuts elsewhere. If it continues to get as expensive at the rate that it is, there may be a time when we have to reconsider maybe taking on a partner or something like that. We're not there yet. We're not anywhere close to that yet, but it has definitely been eye opening to say the least on that aspect.
Yeah.
And I am actually very glad we made the decision to buy the plane before we decided to buy a house, because then we kind of knew we'd step back on the house, and that way we can keep our dream alive. I don't know if you necessarily feel the same way, but I'm glad we did. Number two, time. This one's hard for Brie. The airplane takes a lot of time. You want to explain what that's like for you, or?
Well, yeah. Just the time that it takes cleaning the hangar, working on it, maintaining it, whatever you want to call it. I don't know, it just takes a lot of time to clean the hangar, clean the plane. And I love to help out as much as I can. But then there are times that he'll ask me to come to the hangar and help him, and I'm excited because I like working on it. And then I sit there for like 40 minutes, and then, 10 minutes of my time I'm actually helping.
Yeah.
And then, there's other times that he tells me, like, oh, yeah, I'll just be home in like 1 or 2 hours. I just need to like work on this or do that. I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'll see you in a couple hours. And then it's like 4 hours later, I'm calling him, like, hey, like, how's it going? And he's like elbow deep in the airplane.
So there's a saying out there: is anytime a pilot tells you he's going to be home in an hour, he's lying to you. And that's what happens. You get into it, and next thing you know, a simple oil change you found something else, and then it kind of snowballs out of control. And you're there for 8 hours getting it ready, and it never happens when you don't have something planned. It always happens right before a big trip, right before, and I don't want to say it's get there itis, but it's more important than it would be in the middle of the year when we don't have anything going on. Like our Bahamas trip, it was down to the wire getting the plane ready. And I started planning that 3 months out as far as the maintenance, the maintenance schedule I wanted to put it on, the hours I wanted on the fresh oil.
And I was surprised that he started 3 months in
You were
advance.
yeah, you're right. You're crazy, but
Exactly.
we ended up, it was down to a week prior. The plane was ready to go, and it worked out great. But it is a lot of time, and I've definitely missed things with Brie. I've missed things with the kids, um, and I would call it equivalent to a part-time job.
Oh yeah.
Especially if you're trying to find a part that doesn't necessarily exist. It's not in a parts catalog or anything like that. You have to track it down on eBay or from an older plane. That's really when the time becomes, valuable. It is the time researching, the time on the forums, diagnosing a problem. Everybody knows that your airplane will fly great one day, and then next day it feels like a completely different airplane. Um, and for me, that's concerning to a certain level, and we'll talk about that. And for my number 4 item, but yeah, it was eye opening on how much time it really takes to properly maintain it and keep a safe flying airplane. Um, number 3 is flexibility. This one doesn't really pertain to you and I, but I could see how it could be a challenge for other people.
Yeah.
Um, and this is strictly coming from a VFR perspective, where I am getting my IFR ticket this year. It is my goal before our next trip to the Bahamas in May to have my IFR, and hell or high water, I'm going to get it. If I have to do an accelerated course and take a week off of work, that's what I'm going to do. But for right now, I'm going to try to do it without doing that. I just don't see it happening. I need a damn airplane back. So,
couple more weeks.
Yeah, that's what we've been saying for 2 months. But, when it comes to flexibility, especially as general aviation goes, we're a lot more restricted on weather than what you would be for an airline. Um, and if you're one of those people, business owners in particular, that need to be at certain places on certain dates at certain times, that rigid schedule doesn't always jive with what the weather is going to tell you to do. So you need that flexibility of, yep, weather's looking bad tomorrow, I'm flying commercial. Or hey, the weather's looking bad tomorrow, I've got to drive down and I've got to leave a day early because the drive's 10 hours long when it was a 2-hour flight. Brie and I kind of adapted to that a little bit, where when we're just kind of doing a fun weekend trip, we'll pick 3 or 4 different spots. And then the night before, the day of, we just choose where the weather's the best and go. It actually has turned into one of our favorite games.
Yeah.
We've seen some pretty cool, unexpected places. But, I could see how that would be a problem for somebody that had a rigid schedule. So.
Yeah. At least for us, it just adds to the spontaneity too of us traveling.
The freedom of it.
Yeah, if weather interferes in one direction, or we have to postpone a flight by a few hours and just wait out a storm or whatever, that gives us an opportunity to keep exploring wherever we are. Sometimes we just fly in a different direction for a couple hours, choose a random airport and land and just explore.
Yeah. So that one's kind of a blessing and a curse. For what we use the plane for, it's more of a blessing. Of course, when I do have to get somewhere,
that's when
it's a pain. Yeah, I got stuck in Charlotte on a business trip for 3 days, and Charlotte's not my favorite town to begin with. It's a little too big for me, and I was on a business trip, and I was stuck in this stupid hotel room with nothing around me. It was like the one place in Charlotte you could not walk anywhere. I didn't have a car. Really wasn't worth renting a car because it kept on saying in 2 hours I'd have a VFR hole to get through, and it was just bad. But it was actually exactly what I needed to push myself to get my IFR ticket, though. Number 4 on our list, and this one hits home to me, and I'll give you a little bit of background story on it, but it's the added risk of general aviation. Airplanes in general, on a commercial level, is much safer than driving a car. However, general aviation, from what this isn't cold hard facts, it's just from what I've read, is very similar to riding a motorcycle as far as risks go. To me, I do battle with it from time to time. I'm a father of two. I'm a husband. Um, Bree does work, but my income is very much needed for it to support the family. If anything were ever to happen to me, not only on the financial side, but on the emotional side to the kids, uh, it's it would be devastating. I'm a single father, or was a single father before I met Bree. I had my kids majority of the time, and it would be absolutely devastating to anybody losing a father would obviously be devastating, but um, I do have that sense of selfishness every now and then of why am I taking this additional risk, and it is something that I do struggle with from time to time. A little bit of a background story on how I got into flying was I actually got into it out of fear, or actually, it was really a joke. My brother was getting his pilot's license, and he came down to visit me in Williamsburg Airport, Jamestown Airport. And if you've never been, great cafe, Charlie's Cafe, fresh baked bread every morning. Um, Really good airport to fly into. I'll put the identifier into the comments so you can check it out. But anyways, he was doing a cross country trip with his instructor. We were having breakfast. I was getting ready to get relocated to New York, and he kept pushing me at breakfast. Like, just go up and try it. You'll love it. You'll love it. You'll love it. And you couldn't get me on a commercial flight. I hated airplanes. It was the worst thing in the world to me. And finally, I agreed. After he agreed to pay for it, I agreed to go. And it was SR-22, beautiful airplane. A lot of airplane for a student. I will say that. And the instructor took us up to 5,500 feet. Said, plane controls are yours, plane's yours. I said, no, it's not. I'm not flying. I'm enjoying this. I'm not flying. He said, plane's yours. I'm not doing anything until you start flying. I said, all right. So I grabbed it, and within 10 seconds, I was so hooked. I've never fallen in love with anything so quickly in my life. And I just, by the time I landed, I made my mind up. I was getting my pilot's license. It was the most freeing experience of my life. I was driving up to New York the next day. I said, I'm starting a new job, new city. I'm getting my pilot's license while I'm up here. And by the time I ended up in New York, I had a plane rented, had an instructor lined up, and I never looked back. And so that's how it started with me. But that initial fear of airplanes has turned into a healthy respect for what it is that we do. And like I said, I do have that moral, battle in my head from time to time on whether or not it's worth it. And that is why we maintain the plane the way we do. That's why I'm very anal about it. I talked to my mechanic tonight. I said, take your time. I want everything fixed. We're not deferring anything. When I get it back, I get it back. But and it all kind of stems from that fear. If I were flying with Bree and the kids, and for whatever reason a part broke that I deferred, I would never be able to live with myself. Um, so those are our four main things. I did have one thing, and you and I kind of talked about it earlier. As more, it's not really a consideration of whether or not owning an airplane is worth it, but I think it would be recommendation for anybody looking to buy an airplane. Um,
Yeah.
what could I have done better to explain what aircraft ownership was like, given the fact that I didn't really know either, because it was the first time for me as well.
That's a tough question because I can't say provide me with more information because you also were coming in without all the knowledge either.
Yeah.
I would say maybe next time, like, if you're looking into buying an airplane, just like really getting in with the community and talking to a lot of people to have a well-rounded picture of what the expectation is.
Yeah. I If it were up to me, I would say have explicit consent from your spouse or significant other of what it is that you're getting into. I have friends of mine that are having serious problems with their spouse, um, and it's all over the airplane cost and the time and all the things we just listed. And I do feel like it could have been avoided if it was an open conversation prior to buying it. The other option is to just stay single. So if you're single and you're looking at buying an airplane, just keep it that way and buy the airplane and everything's going to be okay.
Or find someone who loves flying.
You're the unicorn. That doesn't happen all the time. So no, but in all seriousness, though, it is important to keep those lines of communication going from the get go. I think being a team about it and having your spouse involved in some way. They do offer crash courses, so to speak, in aviation. That way, if anything ever happens to you as pilot in command, your co-pilot that flies with you frequently would at least have enough knowledge to get home safely. Now, I'm not saying fly the airplane's not going to be perfect. The plane might be bent up, but they should live after one of these courses. So I definitely recommend that. Brie and I did a little exercise not too long ago, and she did a great job flying all the way to the scene of the crash.
I can fly and I can navigate.
She can fly and she can navigate. She cannot judge a descent to save her life. I think you're about 10 miles short, but but that whole rule, aviate, navigate, communicate. She's got the first two great. The last one, we're going to start working on it. Yeah, we're going to start doing some radio calls and stuff like that with you, and just get you a little bit more comfortable talking to ATC.
I mean, I'm comfortable. I'm just slow.
Yeah,
I take my time with talking, and then they talk way too fast, and I just look at him like, "What did they say?"
Yeah. So, but anyway, so we do have some exciting things. It's obvious that y'all have loved our misery. Our percentages have gone through the roof ever since we were going through this challenging annual. So we appreciate everybody's support. We love seeing all the new subscribers starting to come in. The numbers don't really show it, but the percentages really do show a lot of positive things. And as you've seen through this video where we've been showing these beautiful pictures of our adventures all year, it's obviously still worth it for me and Brie. The pros definitely outweigh the cons 10 times fold for us right now. But I do see, how this could be a problem for a lot of people. When we get the plane back, we are doing some trips up north for the fall foliage. We're going to start working hard on my IFR. We have a trip planned to the Bahamas in May of 2023. So we've got a lot of good things coming up. We are going to do something very special once we hit our 100th subscriber. We're going to announce that next week. I'm going to do a video on how I am preparing for this first flight after a major annual. It's one of the more dangerous flights of the year, so there's going to be a lot of extra precautions going into that. So we're going to do a video on that as well. When we land after annual, we're going to announce the giveaway. We may actually have to do it before.
It depends.
Yeah.
We just don't know.
Yeah. So we're going to do something special, give back a little bit when we hit our 100 subscribers. We're obviously not monetized yet, but we still feel like it's a big feat for us. So anyways, we appreciate it. Thank you guys for hanging out. Like I said, we can't wait to get back in the plane and start taking videos for y'all. So have a great week and safe flying.